I'd like to call this meeting of the Madison Board of Selectmen to order on Monday, February 10th, 2020 at 6:30 PM. Saluting the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The record shows Selectman Elias is absent. Consent agenda, warrant number 31, 12720. Number 32, 12720. Payroll register number 5, 13020. And number 6, 2620.
Make a motion approved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the warrants and payroll register as read. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. We have two items under the consent agenda. One is a liquor license for, let me get back to the first page here. Brown Family Enterprises, doing business at Lakewood Golf Course.
This is a renewal of their annual license.
Make a motion approved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the liquor license for Brown Family Enterprises, doing business at Lakewood Golf Course. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. All right, and we have the second one. This is a request for extension of the license on premise. They have an event going on the 28th of February, I believe it is, and they'd like to extend their liquor license that they've had there.
So this is a one-time extension which would basically allow them to serve alcohol outside during the event on the 28th of February.
Move to approve.
Does that mean only for that event?
Yes.
What also goes through, it does go through the 31st of March. So I would say anything
Yeah, but my
that got
understanding.
canceled maybe?
Right. They had to reschedule.
Yep.
Is that the same location, Lakewood?
Yes.
That's right.
Right, same applicant.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second to approve the extension request for Brown Family Enterprises. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Okay, acceptance of the meeting minutes from January 27th, 2020.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the meeting minutes from January 27th, 2020. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Items of communication, Mr. Town Manager? Oh, I'm sorry, any old business, Mr. Moody?
No,
Let me get this thing going, I guess.
Nothing.
Savage?
Nothing.
Mr. Duchamp? None for me. Items of communication, Mr. Town Manager.
In your packet, I updated the 2020 proposed Board of Selectmen meeting schedule. Didn't change much, except I did reach out to East Madison Fire Station. Instead of February 24th, we're gonna do our meeting there on March 9th. There's a couple, right around the end of May, beginning of June, you see we go from May 11th to June 1st. That's because Memorial Day falls in the middle there on the 25th of May. And I thought we would at least leave an option there of having a meeting prior to town meeting, which should be scheduled for the 8th. We talked about this at the last meeting. Right now, we've tentatively scheduled one meeting in October and one meeting in December. But of course, we can change it as needed. So, any questions or comments on that? I'll just note that the town office will be closed this coming Monday in observance of President's Day. The tax foreclosure deadline is coming up next Tuesday, the 18th. You have a partial list in your packets there. We have, as of today, about 37 properties that are still on that foreclosure list. I don't anticipate any of them becoming something that the town or the selectmen will have to take action on. We've been in contact with most everybody on that list. Every once in a while, somebody will say, You know, this is something that we're not gonna pursue, trying to keep, and they're gonna turn it down. I haven't heard anything like that this year. I don't know if the board had any questions on this. Yes.
What do they do over Schuster property?
I believe there's enough people of interest in, from the families and banks that they will take care of that. Some of the properties have been transferred already.
Yeah.
Some of the properties are for sale.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Just a couple things on Madison Paper and Eagle Creek. I talked to Attorney Dave Silk today. He's made 3 calls to the clerk of the court, Somerset County Court, where all the paperwork has been filed for an appeal of the state board's decision from last year. And we were hoping that the judge would set a date by now. What the clerk has told him is that the judge has the paperwork, he's reviewed it, he's having a legal clerk review it as well, and he could go one of 2 ways. The judge could say, yes, I'd like to hear oral arguments on this, and then our attorney and Madison Paper's attorney would have to come up and present. Or he could just simply say, there's enough information here for me to make a ruling and make a judgment and just do a written ruling and send it to us in the mail. So that's this. I stressed to Dave, and Dave has stressed to the court system, that the town would like to have an answer sooner than later as we get into our budget cycle. Eagle Creek, they have not rescinded any of their abatement requests. They're continuing with the appeals process, and in that process they have made a freedom of access request for all documents, including emails, and evaluations that, notes and calculations that the town has done for the hydro assets that Eagle Creek owns, and they're looking for 2017, 2018, and 2019. I don't think it's going to be too difficult. I don't think it puts any of the selectmen at risk, because I don't think we've shared anything via email regarding that. The only emails that have been shared regarding Eagle Creek's valuation are usually between Shirley, myself, and Dave Silk, the attorney. So I don't think it'll be that difficult to gather that information. So that's all I know.
All right. Department heads, we have the police in file. We have the road commissioner here. We can hear from him.
Sure. Well, this past weekend, Friday evening, we had a 2 truck breakdown. You guys got the emails, I take it. One truck had lost the rear end, and another truck had lost the hydraulic mount. So we were short 2 trucks this morning. So one truck did get up and going with the hydraulic problem. That was going this afternoon, and the other truck will be fixed by the end of the week. Everything's being done right in the house, just getting all the parts gathered up and run after it. Other than that, that's about it. Plow and sand.
3 to 6 Thursday.
Pardon?
I'm saying 3 to 6 Thursday.
Good.
Keep them working.
Any questions?
I wanted to touch on something while both of you were here, and I don't know if everybody knew there was another intersection accident at the end of Ward Hill that we had to respond to. And I guess from what I've heard, and just talking with Don, that it was the same scenario we run into before, someone not stopping or having a hard time stopping at the end of that. And I would imagine that it's, you know, we've attended to that corner before as far as that shady spot that gets plenty of treatment, but we had a vehicle slide through there on yesterday morning, right? So, any further information on that, or that's about it?
Gonna slow down?
Right.
But like speed, it was speed effect.
It was slippery there, but I think the person probably was going a little too fast.
There hasn't been any accidents there in the last year.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah.
Those rumble strips, I believe, helped a lot. It got everybody's attention when they travel across them.
Fortunately, nobody was hurt, too bad. And both the people involved were local, so it's not like they're in ignorance of the situation. So I just bring that up because I know that's something that the public is very aware of, especially in that corner. It may be to the point where we can circle back to the state to see if they have any interest in putting an additional amount of attention on that intersection.
We've done everything but put up a flashing
Right.
light, and
Right.
that's the state's
That's right.
job to do that. You know, it's just driver inattention is what it's all about. You know, there's just so much you can do, and then it's up to the public to adhere to it.
We probably had enough accidents out there to meet their threshold.
We have already, even without this most recent one, so probably, if it's okay with the board, if it's okay with Don and Jeff, I might just shoot an email out to DOT.
Anything that we can do there.
I think that's a good idea, keep the pressure on them, and, you know, if we can get some flashing lights up there to help, I mean, there's a ton of traffic through there, and anything we can do to prevent that.
Stoney?
The good thing about that, Tim, is you're making those people aware of it. It's not that the town is ignorant to what the problems are out there. We're making everybody aware that needs to be aware.
So, with 2 trucks down, you did a very good job last week on those storms, I would say.
Yes, this morning especially.
Yeah, yeah, no, that was very good.
Anything else, Jeff?
Nope, I'm good.
Donnie, anything other than the fire? Anything other than the rescue?
No, right now.
Okay, all right, well, we'll move on. We'll discuss the rescue vehicle with the fire chief, so I guess we're back to it.
I guess the reason Don and I talked about this and having Dan come and just help the board have probably a fuller discussion than you could if just 2 or 3 of you were in attendance at an AMS meeting. You know, as part of the AMS board, you've had this discussion, what's the future of the rescue? I think that right now, the important things to understand is that currently it is owned by the AMS agency. They pay for the insurance, and we send them any bills related to that vehicle. Is that right? Any of the maintenance we do on it, any of the gas that we spend on it, we send that over to AMS, and George works it out and cuts us a check for it. So if we were to take possession of it, those are the big 3 things that would cost the town: insurance, gas, maintenance, and that sort of thing. And then, of course, any expensive repairs. But right now, those 3 things, gas, maintenance, and insurance, would cost the town about $5,000 a year, probably on the high end of that.
In their packet last meeting, they got a breakdown of the rescue, what I
Yeah.
spent last year.
Yep. In your package, I put some history on that. This goes back to '97. I think that the history is important and interesting because there was a discussion going on back there about the importance of having a vehicle like this. And if it didn't go through the shared services of Anson, Madison, Starks, I believe the selectmen of Madison at that time were prepared to raise the money to purchase a vehicle like that, on their own. So it's almost as if this discussion has come back full circle. And here's my perception of it. You have a vehicle that's housed in Madison, maintained roughly through the supervision of Madison. And when you talk to the director of the AMS ambulance service, they don't seem to want that vehicle. So I guess that brings us to here is what's the future of that? And I know that Don has brought up to the AMS board several times that there's, wear and tear on this vehicle. It's a '97, it's 23, 24 years old, and may not have a whole lot of miles on it, but it's been carrying a heavy load for all those years. And I don't think the transmission's gonna fall out tomorrow, but it's something to be aware of, that you've had this ongoing issue with it. So, I thought at least Don could come and give us some background.
Samuel T. was on its last leg too.
Back in '97.
Back in '97, yes. So I guess they're always on their last leg.
I don't want a new rescue tomorrow. I would just like to know what we're gonna do in the future. What's the plan of the board of the A&M's board? What's the plan of Madison Selectmen? What do we do looking forward? Do we need to start putting a little bit of money away now? So 5 years from now, or 3 years from now, or 10 years from now, when we do need to replace this vehicle, that we're not asking for $100,000, $200,000. So I guess it's in the ballpark of A&M board, I would say. What's their intent? Are you guys intent, if they do want to turn it over to the town of Madison, are we going to accept it?
My opinion is that you have to look at what their function is. And does that vehicle meet, help them achieve their function? Their function is to provide medical service and transport for people who are injured or ill or whatever. And that vehicle doesn't have anything to do with that. That vehicle is used to respond to accidents, it's used for the cascade system, it's used for jaws of life, so that you've got that at accidents and so forth and so on. And I think that that's probably in large part why it's difficult for, you know, the ambulance folks to just wrap their minds around the fact that they actually own this. And I've been on this board for 9 years, and we've been talking about this stupid truck for the last 9 years. I mean, seriously, when I first came on this board, there was a battle going on about paying for absorbent pads to pick up oil and grease off from the dirt. I mean, I remember it, and it just seems like every time we turn around, there's some kind of an issue. And the ambulance board, when, at least as far as I know, we send them a bill, they pay it. So, I guess I don't understand, number one, I don't understand why they would want to keep it. And I have been an advocate of, at the ambulance board, of saying, if Madison wants to house it and have it, then sign the title over to it. It costs $5,000 a year for us to put gas and whatever little maintenance stuff we do, and insure it, then it's primarily used out of our fire department. And I asked the question at an ambulance board meeting, I asked it of you, Donnie. I said, if an Anson firefighter, or a Starks firefighter, or a North Anson firefighter wants to come over and grab that rig to go to a scene, can they? And the answer is no.
Exactly right.
So if that's the way we want to do it, then why we don't make it?
That's not the way we want to do it, Jack, is we need people, there's guys in Anson, I think Darrell Partridge is one of them, that if I go back and show you that signed off and can run that rig. Jerry Manson, Darrell Partridge, there's probably a few more that's qualified to take that vehicle out of that bay and use the equipment that we have on there. There's a lot of guys that haven't trained on the jaws of life, the Rescue 42s, how to fill bottles properly on the cascade system.
Let me ask you a question, and this goes back to my original statement. What use does AMS Emergency have for the equipment that's on that vehicle
Probably nothing,
to fulfill their mission?
probably nothing.
But I think, I mean, this isn't an opinion, just reading through some of this stuff. AMS ambulance is a way to share the cost. Because they have already a system that you have for how much they pay, how much we pay, how much Starks pays, how much Anson pays, Starks and Madison. So that's one way of sharing the cost of that unit, which I believe probably goes to things in Anson and
Absolutely.
and Solon, or not Solon, but Starks, all right? I think so. I mean, one thing for me is that helps share the cost. I mean, we can say, we're gonna take that thing over, we're gonna buy another one, and we're gonna $20,000 away for 5 years and do that. But so now do we charge Anson for that? Do we charge Starks for that, if that goes out? Or does that fall under the mutual aid agreement? I mean, it's kinda like a sharing, I would think, in costs. But,
If I could just, again, make an observation. It seemed like it was a good idea 23 years ago, but I think from what I'm hearing, this is a piece of emergency firefighting, response to vehicle accidents, that sort of thing, that really fits more in the mission and the vision of the fire department than it does fit in the mission and the vision of the... So I think that, yes, you're right, the way the AMS system is set up, it does help share costs. but this seems like an outlier. It's kind of sitting outside of the mission and vision of AMS. So when the AMS ambulance service decides to replace an ambulance, how is the cost shared amongst the municipalities?
Through the AMS budget.
The AMS budget.
So in that budget, there's money.
Well, how much you pay for this, I mean, how much you pay on your tax
Right.
bill,
Like a
it's
per capita.
assigned per capita.
Right.
That's how much, so if the ambulance is $100,000, we didn't get any grants or anything.
Right.
I would say that would go in the budget and it would be divvied up.
Part of debt service, and it would be
Yeah.
divvied up by virtue of the per capita agreement.
Yep.
That says Madison has X number of residents, and they pay this much, and Hanson has this, and so forth.
So that sometimes when Dawn and I have gone to the AMS board meetings, it seems like, again, this rescue sits outside here, and seemed to be a reluctance on adding anything like that to replace the rescue into the AMS budget. Because we came away from those meetings saying, well, to get a new rescue, if it stayed through this, then Madison would have to raise 100,000, Anson would have to raise 60,000, Starks would have to raise 30,000 capital, which is different than how you would purchase a new ambulance through the AMS system. So again, the more we talk, the more this rescue seems to be over here on the side.
It's because AMS can borrow money from USDA for ambulances. I don't believe they can borrow money for a rescue.
Again, that vehicle doesn't line up with the mission.
That's why I think they're prohibited
Right.
from borrowing money for a rescue, because it doesn't line up with their mission.
So in 1997, I know you were a young man then, Dawn.
No.
But we were, in 1997, like the Jaws, it talks in here about the Jaws of Life and the Cascade system and other related equipment for accidents. In 1997, did all the area fire departments not have these things?
That's correct.
So
And they
that's,
still don't.
is that the reason that we load this onto one truck?
Yes, and they still don't.
I mean, does Starks have that?
No. No. There's no cascade system in Somerset except for North New Portland. Skowhegan doesn't have a cascade system anymore. We had a bad fire in North Anson, and we used, I think we filled close to 20 bottles. And we had to call in St. Albans, I believe, to get another. We used New Portland, and then we had to call in St. Albans because we were so low on air. When we have a big fire, we have a need for that cascade system, and then some.
Moody.
Well, listening to all this hashing going on here, first of all, I do agree that that vehicle does not belong with AMS, first of all. Second of all, that vehicle has a purpose in itself, and its purpose has nothing to do in relationship to AMS, okay? That purpose is there for accident scenes so that you can extricate people out of a bunch of metal that's been crushed around them, all right? That being said, that truck with all of its equipment has been available to Starks, Anson, Madison, all right?
And
And Emden, right. So I'm sure there should be a number of people that are certified to handle the equipment and drive that vehicle. And I'm sure somewhere somebody's got a list of those that are certified to do that. That being said, all of the area is getting the benefit of that vehicle via mutual aid. Okay? And like you said, Chief, none of these other towns have this equipment. This equipment is there in Madison to serve the area in mutual aid if it's needed. The only thought process I have is not that we do not need a new vehicle and have it set up sometime in the future, but I still feel, whereas all of these Madison, Anson, Starks, and Emden get the benefit of this vehicle, I think there should be some kind of per capita to pay for this vehicle from all of these towns. If not, it flies under mutual aid, and Madison has the whole ticket. I think these other towns have some responsibility here in the cost of this vehicle. And I'm not against it, and I think it's a great idea, and I liked hearing from you, Donnie, saying that we don't need it tomorrow, 3, 4 years
Right, I'm trying to look at it.
away.
Absolutely.
And if it was to be done through the towns, then everybody's got an amount of time to start sticking some in a capital line, so that in the future, when there is something available there as far as what the cost factor is and the money's there, we can go out and purchase this thing.
Exactly right, Lou.
That's my feeling of it. As far as Madison picking up the whole tab and everybody using it under mutual aid, I do not agree with that whatsoever.
Next question.
Yes.
So how is that different from different municipalities that have specific pieces of equipment that come to help? Skowhegan's got an aerial that no one else does, but Skowhegan doesn't charge us when they come to us for the aerial. Anson's got a four-wheeler type vehicle that can handle brush fires and go into remote areas. We don't have anything like that. If Anson has to use that over here, they don't charge us for it. So it sounds like we're trying to create something different out of mutual aid. Do you guys have any experience with towns that charge other towns for use of equipment through mutual aid?
There are towns doing it.
Yeah.
Motor vehicle accidents are the biggest thing. A lot of the southern towns are doing that. I don't know how far north it's got. A lot of times they'll do, like I said, per vehicle accident. If they get to extricate, there'll be another add-in on an extrication, things of that nature.
Yeah.
So, but a lot of it's done, there is an outfit that is doing the billing for you. I don't know exactly the terms, this is something you'll have to reach out and ask the people that's done this, on the recovery part of it. They're going after the insurance companies, so if we don't bill directly, it goes to the insurance company, and really from the meetings that I sit in on that, and I shouldn't say this, but if you get a bill and you don't pay it, they're not gonna go after you, because they don't have the pockets for that, but they are doing that, yes. There are, and they're not too far away from you.
So, in my mind, that question tonight is kind of a straw poll of the board. If the AMS ambulance board says we want to give that back to you. And the last meeting I went to, Arnold Luce kind of swayed things a little bit into getting that fixed. And he was under the impression, or he verbalized that, we've already got a way to share the cost, let's leave it and let's move forward and try to put some money away for that. But, would this board accept that rescue? Nothing holding you to it right now, but if the AMS ambulance board said, we want to give this back to Madison, would we accept it?
My comment on that is, I think the ambulance board is going to get rid of it one way or another. Whether it comes to Madison, or it vanishes, or ends up in Starks, I think it's gonna come to an end. The director's made it pretty clear, he doesn't need it, it's his opinion. I think it's a pretty useful tool, it has been for 20-some years. My comment out of the gate originally was, can we fix it, and if we can, how many years can we get out of it? My standpoint, I say if it's gonna come from there to here or somewhere else, the board should accept it. The chief's comment was he has no other place for this equipment, and clearly they need it, they've been running it for 20, 30 years. Granted, it's not the best, it's not the newest, but it's serving its purpose.
Basically what I've said before.
I would agree. I would agree.
All right, so that, moving forward now, after that comes from, and that won't be till, for a while, we have to start talking about whether we're gonna, once the transmission's fixed, right? That's what we're working on now, isn't it? Has it been there yet? Has it gone yet?
No,
Okay, well, that's supposed to happen.
last week.
That's what I am basing my my okay on is, as soon as that transmission fixed, and that truck can run down the road, I don't have a problem of our fire department taking it over.
In this article here, January 17th, 97, it says that we pay 60%, Anson pays about 30%, and Starks covers the remainder. Is that still true today? Does anybody
I
know?
think it's pretty close, yeah.
It is pretty close.
So if Starks and Anson are still paying AMS, would they pay the 40% to Madison if we took it over?
I don't, if it wasn't with, if Madison took it back over, and you said, okay, Anson, we're gonna send you a bill for this, Starks, we're gonna send you a bill for this, they could say no.
And when you're talking about a vehicle like this, there's no debt associated with it. So the only cost really is the maintenance and insurance.
Yeah, at some point in time, you're gonna have to upgrade it.
Well, that's kind of
Right.
what they've been talking about for a couple of years, and who upgrades it, but again, it's not an AMS mission vision vehicle. The AMS director says he really doesn't want it,
Right.
so they're not incorporating it into any budgets. So
It's any,
See, even here, it didn't sound like, I'm sorry, Don, even here, it didn't sound like it was AMS. I mean, this is the town manager of the town of Madison, Bill
Right.
Fry. I mean, we're over talking about the chief of Madison Police,
Right.
Madison Fire, so AMS ambulance isn't, in 1997 isn't even talking about this machine. Sorry, Don.
where does the $2,900 that I'm allowed to spend out of the budget a year come from? Does that come out of the $92,000 that the town of Madison pays? Now, for many, many years, there's been $2,900 in this account. I can go back as far as I've taken over, and there's been $1,500, $2,000 some years left over. Where does that money go? That should have been, in my opinion, going into a separate account for this rescue, for breakdowns or to replace it, or, I just don't know where that money's going.
it was never carried forward.
Right, it never
So-
was
So
carried
that, like
forward.
you said, if you had gone back 10 years and said, okay, let's start taking this excess money, put it in a separate account for it, carry it forward. But no, once that budget,
Right,
came to an end,
circles are up,
they
circles
just,
back.
they just went to the general fund or it was never used.
My personal opinion, if we could do it, I'd like to see the town of Madison take that thing over, and the town of Madison do whatever they can to start putting money away, or whatever we're gonna do, $5,000 a year. We don't need to go out and get a $300,000 rescue when that thing is no longer in service. There's plenty of used ones out there that we could probably get by with. And maybe $100,000, $200,000 would buy us quite a piece of equipment. But I think with it, like we talked about, it's 22, 23 years old. What are we gonna do in the future? I think we ought to start putting money away. We got a tanker that we gotta think about replacing, you know, the town can't afford to replace a tanker and a forestry truck and then come up with a rescue. I mean, it's just too much stuff. And I understand that, and we all understand that.
So, going back to the AMS board, and you go to the, Selectman Ducharme goes to the, I think Selectman Savage does too, to the officers meeting. Can you bring that up again and say that we have taken kind of a straw vote and we would accept it if the board gives it back to us? With the transmission being fixed? Yes.
I think, as far as that goes, we can just give the town manager direction to notify those people that we have.
Right, but I mean, just taking it back, I mean,
Yeah.
they're gonna meet with that board, they're on that board, they're gonna meet with them. I mean, I think they just bring it forward to John Bryant and say that's what we're moving forward to, and if the board says to give it, I'm not sure the board's gonna say to give it, but I didn't get that sense the other night, there were a few for it.
I didn't either.
There were a few for it, but I don't know if all the parties were interested in giving it back. So.
Just so we're clear on one thing, it's not that I don't want people to drive that thing. Anybody can come in and drive that thing. If you come over there and you've been on, I'm not down in the, excuse me?
Don't say anybody.
No, no. I've got even guys in my fire department, I will let them drive it code 1 to a call if they know that we're already there. But I just don't want just anybody coming through that door, jumping in that rescue and drive to a scene, and then they run into, like he said, a vehicle that's got all kinds of people trapped in it and they don't know what to do. I mean, I just don't want that.
So this,
And
rules of the rescue, that this has never been executed.
No?
And I think that can be easily taken care of, like I said. You have certified people that have been certified with that piece of equipment, that truck and what's on that truck, be the only ones that should be able to carry that truck from there to a scene.
Exactly right.
And I think after that, we start talking about how we're gonna replace this vehicle.
That rescue,
We're
like,
gonna
it's
stop
been
putting
in that,
25,000 a year away, I mean, 5,000 a year, we ain't getting to 200.
that rescue
Not
sat in that
lifetime,
barn
so-
for 22, 23 years, and I can't remember too many times, if any, that another town has come over, hey, can we get this rescue and use the jaws to train on? They've not done it. So,
Yeah, I think the intention, if you look at the rules of the rescue, were to have that, people in Anson, Starks, and Madison trained to do this. And, I mean, this was never executed, I don't know exactly why.
Well, I think there's another misconception too, that there's a lot of people out there that think you can go down and take a 16-hour class on using how to use extrication tools and do this, and you're in the ideal place doing it, in training in a field or something like that, and then when you get out into the field, it's not that easy, you know, and you gotta have capable people, and that's, I think there's a lot of misconception out there, and that's why we want to guide them, you know, for that reason, so.
And since you've received this newer equipment, you have had trainings, right? And when you have trainings, they're open to Starks Fire, Anson Fire, so North Anson.
We actually did a big water water supply training up to the MEW in this fall.
last fall, yeah.
And we tried to put the rescue into just a little station on filling bottles, something everybody should know how to do. And we had 1 or 2 people show up from the outside agencies, you know, so it's a time constraint. Dawn and I, and we have people that are certainly capable of doing the training, but it's hard to get time to do this. We try to plan on doing some of these at our trainings we do out, and we put it out there, and nobody shows up, you know, and it's very frustrating. It's frustrating on our end.
I bet it is. All right, so we'll move forward. We'll let Tim talk to Donnie about how to go forward with the budget. See if we can get this replaced. Thank you. All right, number 3, discuss bids for sale of highway equipment and used commercial snow blower.
This will be quick. You didn't get any bids?
Jeez, I can use that in my driveway.
Was he using it
That's
today?
all around.
Did Danny, I'm sorry, did Danny say 10,000?
Yeah, he did.
Somebody just volunteered to
Yeah,
store
yeah.
it for them, and you can use it that way.
So Jeff's gonna just kind of give the board an update on what he plans to do or would like to do with that.
Yeah, I got some bids together and then sent them out to various people and contractors and other salesmen that we've been dealing with over the years and had absolutely no response. I do have one interested person that I could possibly give him a call or put it in a magazine and go from there. Just kind of hoping to get as much as we can out of it, but we didn't take it in as a trade-in because nobody really wanted it. Plus, we wanted to hang on to it to make sure we got our new one before we got rid of this one and make sure it ran properly. So I'll check out some different avenues this week of what direction to go and hopefully get rid of it.
Did you call Stuart Hughes?
Pardon?
You called Stuart Hughes?
Yes.
You did?
Yeah.
I just wondered, because I know he.
Jeff, how old is this machine?
21 years old.
2001.
Can you still get parts for it?
Yes,
You can, okay,
just barely.
but you can.
You can.
I would say check with the person that you have that would wanna buy it, and if they give you a reasonable price, take it.
Okay.
Well, you know, that everybody on the board, I mean, and if it doesn't, put it wherever you wanna put it.
Yep.
Is that okay with the board?
It's a judgment call as far as
Yeah.
I'm concerned with the road commissioner.
They have coming out of the woodwork, take care of this thing, so.
I think Jeff and I agree that it's worth more to sell it and turn around and use that money to purchase new plow equipment that we could use right now, than to just set it in the barn up there and hope somebody's gonna pay top dollar for it, so.
Or to have it up there as a spare, I mean, that's just kind of.
Well, I would keep it around as a spare, I mean, just it needs to go.
The new one's pretty good.
Yes, works very well.
I can tell you on 23 Bond, you can go up through the driveway anytime you want. And it's
Blow it on lawn, you said?
Yeah, blow it on the wall.
Don't blow it toward the house. House next, no. I'm sorry. Okay, selectmen's concerns, Mr. Moody,
None, sir.
Mr. Savage,
And
Michelle, none from me. Citizens' concerns, looking for motion to adjourn.
So
Motion to second to adjourn, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries, the meeting is adjourned at 7:00.